Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Memory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our preseason 2014 NFL Draft Prospect Rankings video. We're taking a look at the offensive line prospects. That's tackles, guards, as well as centers. We're going to look at senior prospects, juniors, as well as some draft-eligible redshirt sophomores that you want to keep an eye on this upcoming season. So let's start this video off by ranking our top senior offensive line prospects.
James Hurst out of North Carolina is my #1 tackle prospect heading into the 2013 season. Here's a player that's fundamentally sound. He's technically sound as well. His footwork is always consistent, and he has great hand usage. Now, about those hands, he tends to allow them to get outside of his body at times, which could lead to holding penalties. But when you watch him compete down in, down out, you can clearly see why I believe he's the #1 tackle prospect in the country. Next up is Taylor Lewin out of Michigan, a player that could have came out last year and been a top 15 pick. He doesn't have the best footwork and his base is too wide in pass protection, but here's a guy that plays with great intensity. He's aggressive and is a very good run blocker. Almost projects to be on the right side of the line of scrimmage, but I love the way this guy competes. I love the way he plays, and he has that personality that you want up front. Jake Matthews out of Texas A&M has been a fine prospect since he stepped foot on campus, has excellent technique. His hand placement is outstanding, and he's never out of position. Now, he's not as physical at the point of attack as you would like. We'll see if that changes as he moves to the left side. He's also susceptible to the bull rush and doesn't finish his blocks once he engages. Those are things that he has to improve on if he wants to be one of the premier prospects in this draft. Brian Groy out of Wisconsin is a guy that can play left, he can play right, he can play inside. He's very strong, and his initial punch is very powerful, outstanding run blocker. Now, he has to use better leverage in pass protection. That's the one element of his game he has to improve on. But this is a guy I believe will rise up the boards throughout the course of the season and into the postseason. Very underrated tackle in the country right there in Brian Groy. Jawan James out of Tennessee is a big man that can move 6'6", 384 pounds. He's very athletic and has solid all-around skills. Now, he catches way too much and has to initiate contact better. That means right now guys can get up in his chest and drive him back into the quarterback. But when you look at his raw physical skills, you have to be impressed. And here's another player out of that Tennessee program that could go high in this year's draft. Now let's take a look at the remaining senior tackle prospects, 6 through 15. A lot of good talent on this list. You look at Cornelius Lucas, a left tackle with that type of size at Kansas State, definitely a very good player. Centrell Henderson out of Miami, if he can take the next step, here's a guy that can creep into the top 3 of the tackle prospects postseason. And you also look at Austin Wentworth out of Fresno State, 6'5", 300 pounds, leads a very good offensive line out there for the Bulldogs. Antonio Richardson out of Tennessee at 6'6", 332 pounds is my #1 junior tackle prospect heading into the season. Here's a player that has solid all-around skills. He engages and resets very well. When I talk about resetting, I'm talking about past that initial punch from the defensive lineman. Here's a guy that can gather himself and regain leverage. Now, the one thing he has to improve on, he's late with his hands, which could cause him to lose defenders and guys can spin off of him. But when you look at his skill set and the fact that he can recover, that's what you want out of a left tackle prospect. I'm a big fan of Cameron Irving out of Florida State. Here's a player whose athleticism jumped out instantly on tape. He's an outstanding run blocker. Now, the one thing he has to improve on, he has to get stronger. His core strength has to get better in order for him to anchor down and pass pro. But when you look at him as just a run blocker, you're going to like what you see out of this young man at Florida State. Another impressive tackle prospect is Sean Hickey out of Syracuse, 6'5", 290 pounds. Here's a player whose hands stay inside, which means he's able to control the defender. Great movement skills and is very strong at the point of attack. What he has to improve on, he has to play with better leverage. He plays like a guy that's 6'9", but he's 6'5". If he can get better knee bend, he's a player that you want to keep an eye on moving forward throughout this whole process. Cyrus Kouandjio out of Alabama has been a fixture on that Crimson Tide offensive line since he stepped foot on campus, a highly touted high school recruit that has impressive size, and for a man that big, he can move very well and he's very strong. Now, he has to play with better balance. He doesn't play with any balance, and that could cause him to get tipped over, get bull rushed, and he tends to grab. If he can improve on his technique, the sky's the limit for this young tackle prospect. Now, here are some other impressive junior tackle prospects and how I rank them 5 through 10. Eric Lefeld out of Cincinnati, 6'5", 292 pounds, plays along a very good offensive front for the Bearcats, and they should be able to put up a lot of points once again this season. Caleb Johnson, a guy that plays at Rutgers, very good offensive front as well. This is a big year for that program, and he's one of the better players on that football team regardless of position. And Darrell Williams, another guy that plays along a very good offensive line for the Sooners. He is a standout tackle prospect that you want to keep an eye on this season. Now let's move over to the guard position, and my #1 rated guard going into the season is Anthony Steen out of Alabama, 6'2", 312 pounds. This is a guy that excels both in pass blocking as well as run blocking. Very good at the point of attack, and another guy that you won't push around. Now, he is so good that he tends to guess at times on movements, and that could get him out of position. But once he locks on, you're not going anywhere if you're a defender. Gabe Jackson out of Mississippi State is another impressive interior offensive line prospect. I'm a big fan of his football IQ. He has good recognition skills, can get to the second level very well, and this is a guy that plays with a good strong base and has good hands. Now, he's a little flat-footed in his movement, and this is a player that can get moved around if the defender gets into his chest. So he's going to have to play with better footwork, work on his quickness, but this is another premier prospect coming out of that Bulldogs program. There's a lot to like about Cyril Richardson out of Baylor. First of all, you don't find a guy that can both pass block and run block as well as he does, and he moves extremely well. Now, his feet can get heavy at times, which could cause lunging and causes him to miss a defender, and if he's pulling or trapping, he can get there late, but he has the skill set. He has the ability to play inside. He also has the ability to play tackle in the pinch. Like I said before, you're going to like a lot of things about this guy moving forward. Next up is Zach Martin out of Notre Dame, a guy that can play guard or tackle. You're going to see in this clip he's going to be at the left tackle position, 6'5", 335 pounds. His hand placement is always good and plays with a good base. Now, at times, his weight doesn't transfer forward, which could, one, cause him to reach, which could also cause him to catch, and ultimately get pushed back into the quarterback. But if he can improve on his technique like Cyrus Kawangio, this is another player that could fly up the draft boards. I'm a big fan of Spencer Long out of Nebraska, 6'3", 315 pounds. Here's a player that gets to the second level with ease, and he locks onto a defender very well. Pass protection, he has to work on. He tends to give way a little bit, which could cause him to get driven back into the quarterback. Got to play with better knee bend, better leverage in order to improve in that area. Now here's the remaining top 15 guard prospects I have going into the season. Chris Watt, another impressive player out of Notre Dame. Brandon Thomas out of Clemson, integral part to their inside running attack. Mason Walters out of Texas, very underrated player moving into the season. Austin Bushnach out of Cincinnati, another impressive player like I mentioned before, coming out of that Bearcat program. And keep an eye on Nicholas Casper out of San Jose State. May not be the heaviest, definitely a guy that has the movement skills to be effective on the inside. David Yankee out of Stanford at 6'5", 312 pounds is my #1 junior guard prospect who's very versatile. He can play guard or tackle, has played that at Stanford. Now, he plays with a mauler mentality, and that could hinder him in pass protection, which is why I rated him as a guard. But he is clearly one of the best players in the country regardless of position. The Bruins have themselves a very fine guard prospect in Xavier Su'a-Filo, 6'5", 305 pounds, a very good athlete that can move and shows good recovery when he's beaten. And that's a good trait to have for a guard. You got to be able to recover and re-engage. Now, he doesn't play with a good base, and his feet doesn't move as well on contact. Those are two areas of improvement that he's going to have to work on this season. Here's some other worthy junior guard prospects that you want to keep an eye on. Lael Collins, a very fine prospect coming into the Tigers program and hasn't disappointed. Trey Jackson out of Florida State, 6'4", 328 pounds. And A.J. Cann out of South Carolina. Very impressed with this guy has put together on film so far in his young career. My #1 center prospect going into the season is Utah State's Tyler Lawson, 6'4", 312 pounds. Very impressed with this guy has done so far in his career. Football IQ is off the charts. He's very athletic and plays with great technique. At times, he's slow to anchor, and that could hinder him in pass protection. But when you look at his overall skill set and the production he has had at Utah State, you have to like what you see out of Tyler Lawson. My number 2 center prospect is Travis Swanson out of Arkansas at 6'4", 314 pounds. Has been a very steady and productive performer throughout the course of his Razorback career. His run and pass protection are top-notch. Now, the one thing that he has to improve on, he's a little stiff, so his flexibility has to improve, and he can be susceptible to counter moves because if he gets out of position, he doesn't have the athleticism to recover. That's the two things that he has to work on, but overall, a very good prospect coming out of the SEC. I'm a big fan of James Stone out of Tennessee at 6'3", 305 pounds. His recognition skills are top-notch, and he doesn't give up ground in both the passing game or the running game. Now, he doesn't move particularly well, and this is a guy, if you want to get creative with your offense and move your center, he's not that type of a player unless he improves on that this season. But as far as running downhill and protecting up front, he can do it very well. He can actually do it with the best of them. Gabe Eichert out of Oklahoma is a scrappy football player with good movement skills that recovers very well. The reason why he has learned to recover very well as an offensive lineman is because his hand placement has been all over the place. If he can get consistent with placing his hands inside and drive blocking the defender, look for him to skyrocket up people's boards come April. Now, here are some other center prospects going into the 2013 season that you want to keep an eye on. Weston Richburg out of Colorado State. Keep an eye on that football program. They're going to surprise some this year. Big game versus Alabama early in the season. Zach Karen out of Toledo, another impressive MAC interior offensive lineman. And Josh Allen out of UL Monroe, very good prospect coming out of that Warhawks program. Coronas Grasu out of Oregon is my number 1 junior prospect going into the season. Great positioning of hands, and we've talked about this throughout the course of the video, hand placement, and he's one of the better ones in the country at doing so. He's very strong at the point of attack as well. The one knock about his game, he doesn't move his feet on initial contact. That's going to have to improve. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself either getting ragdolled by a stronger player or getting counter moved, and you're not being able to recover. But right now, I love what he brings to the table. Definitely has some room for improvement, but is one of the best center prospects as a junior in the country. Now, here are some of the other impressive junior center prospects going into the season. B.J. Kinney out of Kansas State, Andy Galick out of Boston College. Keep an eye on him. The very aggressive Mike Marble. Love the way this guy plays the game. 6'2", 298 pounds. And Russell Bodine is next in line of a lot of great and very good offensive line prospects coming out of that North Carolina program. Now, here's some small college prospects along the offensive line that you want to keep an eye on. Let's start with tackle Billy Turner out of North Dakota State. The Bison have been very good the last 2 seasons, national champions, and the reason why they're able to hold their own up front, and Billy Turner is one of the best tackles at the FCS level. The top guard prospect, in my opinion, is Dakota Dozier out of Furman. Here's a guy that moves very well. He engages and resets very well. And you can do a lot of good things along that offense front when you have a player of the caliber of Dozier. The top center prospect is Chris Elkins out of Youngstown State at 6'3", 300 pounds. When you look at the Penguins on offense, they run a power spread type of attack, which means the interior offensive line has to excel in run blocking first, pass pro second, and Elkins is definitely one of the best ones in the country. Now, here's some other small college senior prospects that you want to keep an eye on. Matt Hall out of Belhaven, mammoth tackle. That's a very impressive football player, 6'9", 325. You also look at David Bourne out of Old Dominion, very good guard prospect. And Brian Clark out of Bloomsburg. There's a reason why Franklin Quite can rush for 2,000 yards in consecutive seasons. He's definitely one of the better guards in the country. So let's take a look at my top 10 overall prospects, offensive line prospects heading into the 2013 season. James Hurst, the outstanding tackle from North Carolina, is my number 1 overall offensive lineman. But once again, you see this is a great year for guard play. Anthony Steen, David Yankee, Gabe Jackson, Cyril Richardson, all are in my top 5. 2 centers cracked the top 10, and Tyler Larson out of Utah State, big fan of his game, and Travis Swanson out of Arkansas. Once again, you can't go wrong with any one of these linemen on your football team. We'll see how well they progress this season.